Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go! Hey there! I've got a story for you that my dad, along with my late Uncle Dale, experienced back in their university days. This story, my friends, is a prime example of engineering brilliance and sweet revenge all over a mailbox. Back in the day, my dad and Uncle Dale were just two ambitious university students studying engineer. One day, their professor came into class with a problem that needed solving. You see, this professor had a persistent issue. His mailbox was getting obliterated by some miscreant driving by every single night. The poor professor and his wife had replaced their mailbox a total of 4 or 5 times, and each time it was sent crashing to the ground by a red truck. The professor decided to turn this into a challenge and offered extra credit to any group of students who could come up with a mailbox that could withstand the relentless assault of the red truck. There were 2 crucial criteria. The mailbox had to comply with city regulations, and they had to build it within a budget of $20. Now, keep in mind, $20 back then was no small amount. Now, you might be thinking, what kind of mailbox could withstand a direct hit from a truck? Well, if you know engineers, they love tackling problems head-on, and engineering students take it up a notch. Dad and Uncle Dale were up for the challenge. The two decided to put their brains to the test. First, they needed a post that met the mailbox regulations in terms of height, width, and depth. After some searching, they found a sturdy steel bar that fit the bill. But that was just the beginning. To reinforce the steel bar, they filled it with a mixture of concrete and steel rebars. This made the post exceptionally heavy and robust. Once the concrete had cured, they took it a step further. They welded 8 steel rebars to the sides of the bar, bent them in half, and placed the entire contraption inside a large bucket. To add even more weight, they filled the bucket with the heaviest rocks they could find. As a final touch, they painted the mailbox post brown and black to make it look like wood. On top of this, they placed the ugliest mailbox they could find on sale and welded it down for good measure. What they created was a mailbox monstrosity that was not only indestructible but also looked like a typical mailbox. On the day of the presentation, they dragged this beast into class, and yes, I said dragged, because it was so incredibly heavy. They confidently explained their creation to the professor and handed it over for testing. Since they were the first to submit their project, the professor agreed to give it a shot. That very night, the professor and his wife were startled awake by a deafening metallic bang. They rushed outside to witness a red truck speeding away, but to their astonishment, the mailbox stood tall and strong. At its base lay a broken wooden baseball bat, the feeble weapon used in the attack. 2 days later, the professor received an unexpected bill in the mail. A hospital bill. As it turned out, when a passenger in a red truck had swung that bat at the mailbox, he had done some serious damage to his arm and shoulder. Furious and planning to sue the professor for their injuries, truck's occupants quickly found themselves in a sticky situation. The professor, however, had a clever trick up his sleeve. He hired a lawyer who delivered the message to the would-be plaintiffs. Are you prepared to admit in court that you were repeatedly vandalizing this mailbox? That stern warning was enough to silence them. To the best of my dad's knowledge, that mailbox still stands strong. A testament to engineering brilliance and sweet revenge. Other students who submitted their own mailbox designs as part of the challenge had theirs gifted to various professors throughout the town. And guess what? Those mailboxes are also still standing, unyielding to any vandals who dare to approach. A friend told me about a guy he knew named Ben and how he made out some crazy revenge. Ben was driving himself down Johnson Road. Now, Johnson Road was one of those uncommon roads in suburbia that was kind of narrow. As he was driving, there were these 3 teenagers, 16, 17, and 19, walking shoulder to shoulder along the road with their backs to him. Not trying to hit them, Ben moved to the far left side to avoid them and give them enough safe space. Turns out it was a ruse by those three kids to get cars to pass along them, just like that. When he passed by them, they took out baseball bats they were hiding and started smashing his car as he passed. Took out his side mirror and minor damage. Ben wasn't too happy, so he pulled over and got out of his car to address this. Not too smart since it's already 3-1, but you'll understand in a minute. The three kids see him and realize their advantage and start charging at him, bats raised. Now here's where it gets good. Ben pulls a gun and tells them all to freeze. Turns out Ben is a retired Marine with a concealed weapons permit. The three kids freak out and stop dead in their tracks, arms raised. Ben directs them to get on their knees, lay face down and keep their arms and legs spread out. Now this was back in 2000 when cell phones weren't as common, but Ben happened to have one. He called the cops on the kids right then and there. It said, "My name is Ben, I'm on Johnson Road, and three teenagers just attacked my car and threatened to attack me. I am carrying a gun with a permit and have them on the ground and subdued. I need an officer to come by here as I'm pressing charges and I want him arrested. When the officer arrives, I am the one with the gun and I will follow his instructions." The kids started begging for him to let them go, cursing each other and probably giving sob stories, but Ben just not listening. The cop arrives, orders Ben to put down the gun, which he does, and then it gets better. Turns out the cop is a retired Marine too. He hears Ben's statement, sees the evidence, and then they have this exchange. "So they came right at you?" "Yes." "And you didn't shoot them?" "No, they listened to my commands, so I didn't see the need." The cop then looks at the three kids and says, "You're lucky you got him and not me. I'd have shot all three of you coming at me with bats. If this guy would have shot all three of you dead, told me what happened, I'd send him on his way." So the three kids get arrested and the cop tells the two youngest that they are probably going to screw up their lives if they keep this up. He tells a 19-year-old that he's over 18 and an adult, so it's too late for him. He's going to jail for this. Then it gets better. They all end up in court, and as it turns out, the judge's son is currently in the Marines. He tells the other two that they are going to be tried as adults too, and eventually all three go to jail for the maximum sentence our state allows for this crime. Hey there, fellow pro-revenge enthusiasts, buckle up because I'm about to take you on a wild ride that left me grinning ear to ear. Picture this. I was a dirt poor teenager in the 90s, and my pride and joy was a 1984 Jeep CJ7. That baby was my ticket to freedom and adventure, and I cherished it more than anything else in the world. Little did I know that my trusty Jeep would become the centerpiece of one of the most satisfying acts of revenge I've ever pulled off. Now, back in the day, I was grinding away at a midnight shift at the only 24-hour gas station in our small town. That Jeep was my pride and joy, but I needed to work to keep the gas tank full. It was a slow night when my younger brother, let's call him Dave, asked to borrow my Jeep. Dave had a date with a lovely girl, and he was planning to take her to a party. Being the good big brother I am, I handed over the keys without a second thought. Hours ticked by, and around 1 a.m. my heart sank as a phone rang. It was Dave. His voice was filled with panic as he stammered, "Dude, I messed up big time. I left the keys in the Jeep and it got stolen." My world came crashing down. My beloved Jeep stolen? I was devastated. I tried to stay calm, keeping Dave on the line as I processed what just happened. And that's when fate stepped in with a wicked sense of humor. In a twist of incredible luck, the very thieves who swiped my Jeep pulled into my gas station to fill up on gas. My Jeep rolled up to my workplace as if the universe itself conspired to return it to me. Now, here's where the revenge story truly kicks into gear, you see? My Jeep had a quirky little issue. The gas gauge was broken and always read empty, and wouldn't you know it, I worked at the only 24-hour gas station in the whole area. This was my chance to turn the tables on these thieves and teach them a lesson they would never forget. I didn't waste a second. I pressed the silent alarm button discreetly and sprung into action. The gas station was full serve, which meant I had the perfect excuse to approach my Jeep while it was being filled up. I didn't let the adrenaline or fear overpower me. Instead, I focused on executing my plan with precision. As the thieves hopped out of my Jeep to pay for their gas, I saw my opportunity. My heart pounding in my chest, I slipped the key out of the ignition and into my pocket, praying they wouldn't notice. They paid for the gas and then it happened. They began arguing among themselves about who had the keys last. The delay was all I needed. I watched with bated breath as the seconds ticked away, waiting for the sound of sirens in the distance. Soon enough, the unmistakable wail of police sirens filled the night air. My plan was working flawlessly. As the police cars pulled into the gas station, I couldn't help but grin from ear to ear. I had to explain the whole story to the officer at least half a dozen times before he fully grasped the situation. The thieves had this stunned look of disbelief on their faces that I'll never forget. It was a mix of confusion, anger, and sheer disbelief that they had fallen into this trap. The cops, on the other hand, couldn't contain their laughter. They found the whole situation so absurd and comical that they couldn't help but share it with dispatch. As they retold the story over the radios, I stood there reveling in the sweet taste of revenge. The thieves, meanwhile, sat in the back of a squad car, their faces flushed with humiliation and defeat. The next day, our little town was buzzing with the tale of the stolen Jeep turned into an epic revenge story. The local newspaper couldn't resist the sensational headline. My phone was blown up with calls from friends and family who had heard the news. I had become a hometown legend overnight. As for the thieves, they were facing a world of trouble. The evidence against them was ironclad and their stunned expressions had been immortalized in police dashcam footage. They were in for a lengthy legal battle, and the humiliation of being outsmarted by a gas station attendant was surely going to follow them for the rest of their lives. So there you have it, the tale of how I turned the tables on the thieves who dared to steal my beloved Jeep. It was a night I will never forget, and every time I think back on it, I can't help but chuckle. Remember, sometimes life has a funny way of serving up revenge when you least expect it. Hey everyone, I'm in a bit of a sticky situation and I wanted to share it here to see if I'm the jerk or not, so here's the deal. I'm a 30-year-old woman happily married to a 37-year-old husband for 6.5 years now. We are childless by choice, and life has been pretty good for us. We have this tight-knit friend group with 3 other couples, and that's where the drama starts. First, let me introduce you to our friends. There is couple A, who has 2 rambunctious boys, couple B, who is currently expecting their first child, and couple C, who is also pregnant but is making a bigger deal out of it than the others. Now here's the issue. Couple A's wife, let's call her Jane, has this idea that whenever we visit their place, we should help take care of their kids. I mean, we're happy to do our part as friends, but Jane has a tendency to hand her second child over to me and their first one to my husband as soon as we walk through the door. It's like we're the designated babysitters every time. On the other hand, couple B has been super considerate. They were sensitive to our situation and didn't talk about their pregnancy until they felt we were comfortable. When they asked me to be the keeper of the baby's gender for a surprise reveal party, I was more than happy to help them out. It was the least I could do to show our appreciation for their thoughtfulness. Now here is where things take a turn. Couple C, well, they have been a bit over the top. They shared their pregnancy news when they were only 6 weeks along, and which was a bit surprising to me. They want to do a gender reveal at the end of October, and they asked me to plan and host the whole thing. Oh, and just yesterday they dropped a bombshell. They are having twins. Now, I understand that pregnancy is exciting and everyone has their own way of celebrating it, but this news hit me hard. I couldn't hold back my emotions, and on the way home I told my husband about the twins. I didn't want him to be blindsided at the gender reveal party. You see, we've been through a lot in our 6.5 years of marriage. We've suffered multiple miscarriages, each one more heartbreaking than the last. Our first miscarriage happened in 2017 at 19 weeks, And then in 2020, we lost twins at just 8 and 14 weeks. The most recent one was in March of this year at 9 weeks. It was devastating and we needed time to heal. The last miscarriage was especially tough as it happened the day before couple's 8th son was born. We mustered the strength to inform all of our friends via text, letting them know about our loss and our need for some time to heal. Couple B, who were expecting at the time, were considerate enough not to reveal their pregnancy until late July, giving us the space we needed to process our grief. We were genuinely happy for them and appreciated their sensitivity. However, it seems that couple A and C have never truly considered our feelings. They have been so wrapped up in their own lives that they haven't spared a thought for what we've been through. When we visited couple A's newborn, Jane handed me the baby and disappeared for an hour and a half. I held that precious baby fighting back tears while she never once asked us how we were doing or if we were okay. We didn't complain, we just looked after their kids, but inside it was painful for us as we hadn't fully healed from our losses. Now couple C is experiencing some serious pregnancy symptoms and they always make it a point to say things like, "I'm having such a hard time with this. I hope you don't have to go through this when you get pregnant." They know our history and it's hard not to feel like they are rubbing their pregnancy in our faces. So back to the present day, I told couple C that I'd reveal their twin news to my husband because I wanted to consider his feelings. I didn't want him to be shocked on the day of the gender reveal party. Well, let's just say they didn't take this well. They accused me of ruining their surprise and not considering their feelings. So I don't know, am I the jerk in the situation? I am honestly torn. On one hand, I understand that they wanted to keep it a secret for the big reveal, but on the other hand, I couldn't bear the thought of my husband being caught off guard by such an emotional announcement given our history. What do you guys think? And now some comments on the post. Someone saying, "You're not the jerk. Telling just your spouse is just not ruining the surprise for anyone but your spouse. And they should know why this wouldn't necessarily be a happy surprise for him. I honestly think it's a little callous for either B or C to ask you to be involved in their gender reveals, given your experiences and a little flexibility on their part to ensure you and your husband are in the right headspace is just not too much to ask." Another person adds, "You're not the jerk, but have you ever talked to couple A? Do so in a public place where kids clearly aren't allowed or expected. Ask them why they keep handing you their kids and tell them how it makes you feel." Although I'd never had a miscarriage before I adopted my kid, people used to hand me their kids all the time. Maybe it's because they knew I loved kids and didn't have any. Maybe it's because they knew eventually I'd grab and play with a kid, and it was their way of giving me permission and saying that they trust me. Maybe they were exhausted and needed a reprieve, if only for a moment. My point is, they will never know how much you're hurting if you don't speak up. Should they know? Maybe. But then again, maybe they think they are doing you a favor by not mentioning your hardship and giving you space to bond with the kids. They should absolutely ask and not assume, but you have a voice and you must use it. A third commenter goes with, "You're not the jerk, but I don't know why you told them anything. They are not considerate of you. Taking care of your husbands and your feelings are important around couple A and C because they will clearly never look out for yours. Also, stop letting them walk all over you. You don't have to take care of someone else's kids. It takes a village is not a contract." Couple A and C sound like terrible friends. Maybe focus on couple B and try to find some other friends.
And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching and see you next time.